Most people don't fail because they lack ability. They fail because they stop at the exact moment they were supposed to continue. And the dangerous part is it never feels like quitting. It feels logical. It feels justified. It feels like the smart decision. You've felt that moment before. When the effort starts to feel heavy, when results slow down, when nothing seems to confirm that what you're doing is working, and a thought slips in quietly, maybe this isn't it. That single thought has stopped more progress than failure ever could. At first, it sounds reasonable. You tell yourself you're being practical. You start weighing your options, considering other paths, thinking maybe your time could be better spent elsewhere. And without realizing it, your focus begins to drift. That's how it happens for most people, not through one dramatic decision, but through a slow shift in belief. They don't quit instantly. They just start giving less effort, less focus, less consistency, until one day they're no longer moving forward at all. But what if that moment, the one where everything feels uncertain, is not a signal to stop, but a signal that you've reached a level most people never get past? What if that resistance you're feeling is actually part of the process, not a sign that something is wrong? Because there's a stage in every pursuit where progress becomes invisible, where the work continues, but the results don't show yet. And in that stage, your mind starts looking for proof. When it doesn't find it, it begins to create doubt. That doubt feels real. It feels like clarity, but it's not. It's simply your mind reacting to the absence of visible progress. And if you don't understand that, you'll misinterpret the moment and walk away from something that was still building. Most people never learn how to navigate that stage. They rely on motivation, on excitement, on early results. And when those disappear, they assume the path is wrong. They don't realize that every meaningful result goes through a phase where nothing seems to be happening. There are certain principles, unspoken rules that govern what happens in those moments. They determine whether you push through or pull back, whether you continue building or quietly abandon what you started. And most people never become aware of them. That's why persistence feels inconsistent for so many. It's tied to emotion. When they feel good, they move. When they feel uncertain, they stop. And that pattern keeps them locked in cycles, starting, stopping, restarting, never reaching the point where things actually compound. But there are others who move differently. They don't depend on how they feel. They understand that the moment of doubt is part of the path, not a detour from it. And because of that, they keep going when everything inside them says to stop. And here's what most people never realize. The moment you feel like stopping is often the moment right before something shifts. Not suddenly, not dramatically, but enough to change everything if you're still there to experience it. If you step away too early, you never see that shift. You never know how close you were. And over time, that pattern repeats itself in different areas of your life, each time ending just before something meaningful could have happened. But persistence is not just about continuing blindly. It's about understanding the structure behind progress, recognizing the stages, knowing when doubt is a distraction and when it's feedback. That awareness changes everything, because once you understand those laws, persistence stops feeling like struggle. It becomes intentional, controlled, directed. You're no longer reacting to every feeling. You're moving with a clear sense of what's actually happening. So if you've ever felt like stopping, like things weren't working, like your effort was leading nowhere, there's something beneath that moment you haven't fully seen yet. Something that only reveals itself if you stay a little longer. And once you understand it, you'll realize that persistence is not about pushing endlessly. It's about knowing exactly when not to stop, especially when everything in you is trying to convince you that you should. There is a moment in every undertaking that determines its outcome long before the result appears. It is not found at the beginning, where enthusiasm is strong, nor at the end, where success becomes visible. It lies in the middle, quiet, uncertain, and often misunderstood. It is the point where effort continues, yet evidence seems absent. And it is here that most men turn back. This turning back rarely appears as failure. It does not arrive with clear declaration. It comes quietly, disguised as reason. A man does not say, "I will abandon this," he says. "Perhaps this is not the right course." He does not feel that he has stopped. He feels that he has decided wisely. And in that belief, he withdraws, not realizing that he has left at the very point where persistence was required most. This is the danger. For the moment that demands continuation does not feel like opportunity. It feels like doubt. It feels like uncertainty. It feels as though effort is no longer producing result. And because it feels this way, it convinces the man that stopping is justified. Yet this moment is not what it appears to be. It is not the end of progress. It is the stage before progress becomes visible. All meaningful achievement passes through this condition. There is always a period where effort is applied without confirmation, where work is done, yet no outward sign appears, where the man must continue, not because he sees result, but because he understands that result has not yet revealed itself. The one who does not understand this becomes discouraged. He looks for evidence. He searches for proof that what he is doing is working. And when that proof does not appear, he begins to question. Not the method alone, but the direction. Not the direction alone, but himself. This questioning weakens his effort. His focus begins to drift. His actions lose their intensity. And though he may still be moving, he is no longer advancing with the same force. This is how progress is lost. Not in a single decision, but in a gradual reduction. The man gives less, thinks less clearly, acts less consistently, until, in time, he is no longer moving forward at all. And yet, if he had continued a little longer, he would have seen the change. This is the truth that few accept, that the greatest resistance often appears just before advancement, that the point of uncertainty is not a signal to stop, but a test of whether the man understands the process. Thomas Edison, in his pursuit of the electric light, encountered repeated absence of result. Each attempt appeared to fail. Each effort produced no visible success. Yet he did not interpret this absence as final. He understood that he was not failing. He was progressing through a stage where results had not yet taken form. Others, observing from the outside, saw only repeated effort without outcome. They would have stopped. They would have concluded that the work was ineffective. Yet Edison continued, not because he saw immediate success, but because he understood that success was still being formed. This is the distinction. The man who persists sees beyond the moment. The man who stops sees only the moment. Others will observe this difference, though they may not fully understand it. They will see that the one who continues does not withdraw when results are delayed, that he maintains his effort when others reduce theirs, that he remains steady when uncertainty appears. They may call him determined, unusual, even stubborn. Yet what they are seeing is not force alone, it is understanding. He knows that progress is not always visible, that effort is not always immediately rewarded, that there is a stage where nothing appears to happen, and that this stage must be passed through. The man who does not know this becomes governed by appearance. He measures his progress only by what he can see, and when he sees nothing, he assumes nothing is happening. This assumption is costly, for it leads him to abandon what was still building. It must be understood that the absence of visible result is not evidence of absence of progress. It is simply a delay in its appearance. The seed does not appear above ground the moment it is planted. It grows unseen. It develops in silence. And only after it has formed sufficiently does it become visible. So it is with effort. So it is with persistence. The man who understands this continues without needing constant confirmation. He does not require proof at every step. He trusts the process. And in that trust, he maintains his direction. Others may not see what he sees. They may question his actions. They may doubt his path. Yet he proceeds. Not because he ignores reality, but because he understands it more deeply. This understanding gives him advantage, for while others stop at the point of uncertainty, he moves beyond it. While others withdraw, he continues. And in continuing, he reaches the stage where result appears. To others, This result seems sudden, unexpected, as though it arrived without warning, yet it did not. It was formed gradually, through effort that was not visible, through persistence that was not recognized, through continuation at the point where most men would have stopped. Thus, the difference between the one who succeeds and the one who does not is often found in this single moment, not in ability, not in opportunity, but in decision. The decision to continue when continuation does not appear, justified. The decision to move forward when the mind suggests retreat. The decision to remain when everything seems uncertain. This is the point where most men turn back, and it is the point where the few move forward. Let the individual, then, become aware of this moment when it appears. Let him recognize it not as a signal to stop, but as a sign that he has reached a stage where persistence is required. Let him not be governed by appearance. Let him not be misled by absence of result. Let him continue, for it is in this continuation that progress is revealed. And let him affirm with firm resolve, I do not turn back at the moment of doubt. I continue beyond what I can see, and through that continuation, I reach what others never do. There is a law governing all achievement that few men ever come to understand, yet it determines whether their efforts shall lead to result or dissolve into abandonment. It is the law of invisible progress, the principle that all meaningful advancement begins unseen, develops without recognition, and only reveals itself after sufficient accumulation has taken place. Most men do not account for this law. They expect progress to appear alongside effort. They believe that if they are moving forward, they must be able to see it. And when they do not, they assume they are standing still. This assumption is the beginning of retreat. For when a man cannot perceive his advancement, he begins to question its existence. He looks for signs, for evidence, for confirmation that his effort is producing something of value. And when these signs do not appear, he becomes uncertain, not because the work is ineffective, but because it is not yet visible. This is where error occurs. The man measures his progress by appearance rather than by principle. He trusts what he sees over what he knows, and in doing so, he abandons what was still forming. It must be understood that progress does not always present itself immediately. There is always a period of development that occurs beyond sight. Effort is applied. Work is done. Action is repeated. Yet the result remains hidden, not because it is absent, but because it is incomplete. The structure is being formed. The foundation is being laid. And until it reaches a certain point, it cannot be seen. Consider the farmer who plants his seed. He does not expect harvest the next day. He does not dig into the ground to check whether growth has begun. He understands that development takes place beneath the surface, that the seed must first take root, that it must grow in silence before it appears. If he lacked this understanding, he would abandon his work before it had time to produce. So it is with all achievement. The man who understands this law continues his effort without needing constant confirmation. He does not require visible reward at every stage. He recognizes that what is not seen may still be progressing, that what has not appeared may still be forming. This recognition allows him to persist, while others withdraw. History provides many examples of those who failed to understand this law. There are accounts of men who labored in search of gold, who dug and dug without result, only to abandon their effort when no evidence appeared. Another man would then continue the same work, sometimes only a short distance further, and discover what the first had nearly reached. The difference was not in ability, nor in opportunity. It was in understanding. One stopped when progress could not be seen. The other continued, knowing that absence of evidence is not evidence of absence. This is the law of invisible progress, and it operates whether a man recognizes it or not. The one who understands it gains advantage. The one who does not becomes governed by appearance. Others will observe this distinction. They will notice that the man who persists does not become discouraged when results are delayed, that he does not reduce his effort when confirmation is absent, that he maintains his direction even when nothing appears to change. They may call him patient, persistent, even fortunate, yet what they are witnessing is not chance, it is alignment with a principle. He knows that progress is occurring, whether it is visible or not. This knowledge removes doubt. It allows him to continue with steadiness, without constant questioning, without unnecessary adjustment, without the need for reassurance. The man who lacks this knowledge moves differently. He becomes dependent upon visible reward. He requires proof. He looks outward for confirmation. And when he does not find it, he begins to weaken. His effort declines. His belief diminishes. His direction becomes uncertain. And though he may not stop at once, he begins to withdraw, gradually, quietly, until progress ceases altogether. It must be clearly understood that visible results are not the beginning of success. They are its expression. They appear only after sufficient unseen work has been completed. Thus, to demand immediate evidence is to misunderstand the nature of growth. The man who would succeed must learn to work beyond what he can see, to continue beyond what he can measure, to trust the process when the result has not yet appeared. This does not mean blind effort. It means informed persistence. The individual must know that progress often precedes recognition. That effort accumulates before it reveals itself. That development occurs before it is displayed. This understanding changes everything, for the man no longer becomes discouraged by delay. He no longer interprets absence as failure. He no longer abandons his effort prematurely. He continues. And in continuing, he moves beyond the stage where progress is hidden, into the stage where it becomes visible. To others, this visibility appears sudden. They see the result, but not the process. They witness the outcome, but not the unseen effort that produced it. Thus, they believe success has arrived quickly, when in truth, it has been forming for a long time. This is why many misunderstand achievement. They see only what is revealed, not what was required to reach that point. The man who understands the law of invisible progress does not make this error. He knows that what he is doing today may not appear tomorrow, but it will appear. If continued, if maintained, if not abandoned. Thus, he removes the greatest threat to his advancement, the tendency to stop when nothing seems to be happening. He continues, not because he is certain of immediate reward, but because he understands delayed reward. And this understanding places him beyond the reach of discouragement. Let the individual then adopt this law as part of his thinking. Let him no longer measure his progress solely by what is seen. Let him recognize that what is unseen may be of greater importance. Let him continue his effort when results are not yet visible, for it is in this continuation that success is secured. And let him affirm with steady conviction, I do not require visible proof to continue. I know that progress is formed before it is seen, and I persist until it reveals itself. There exists within every man a force that does not oppose him openly, yet works steadily to weaken his persistence. It does not appear as fear, nor does it always present itself as doubt. More often it comes as reason, calm, measured, and convincing. It suggests reconsideration. It invites delay. It offers explanations that seem wise, yet lead to withdrawal. This is the law of mental resistance. Most men do not recognize it, for it does not feel like opposition. It feels like clarity. The man does not say, I am resisting. He says, I am thinking this through. He does not feel that he is retreating. He feels that he is adjusting his course wisely. And in that belief, he begins to step back, not realizing that he is yielding to a force that appears rational, yet leads him away from continuation. This resistance arises most strongly after the first period of enthusiasm has passed. At the beginning of any pursuit, energy is high. The man acts with ease. His direction is clear. His purpose feels certain. But as time passes, this condition changes. The work becomes familiar, the effort becomes steady, and the mind, no longer supported by excitement, begins to question. It asks whether the path is correct, whether the effort is justified, whether there may be something better. These questions, in themselves, are not harmful. But when they arise from resistance rather than reason, they lead the man away from persistence. He begins to reconsider what he has already decided. He reviews what was once clear. He weakens his commitment through analysis, and in doing so, he reduces his forward movement. This is how resistance operates, not through force, but through suggestion. It does not push the man backward. It invites him to step back willingly. Consider the individual who has been working steadily toward a definite aim. For a time, he progresses without interruption. Then, without clear cause, he begins to feel uncertain. Nothing has changed in his work, yet something has shifted within him. The same actions now feel heavier. The same direction feels less certain. He begins to think differently, not about what must be done, but about whether it should be done. And in that shift, resistance has taken hold. Most men respond to this moment by slowing down. They reduce their effort. They begin to consider alternatives. They step away slightly, believing they are gaining perspective. Yet in truth, they are weakening their position. For persistence requires continuity, and continuity is broken when resistance is entertained. Now consider another man in the same position. He feels the same resistance. He experiences the same internal questioning, yet he recognizes it. He understands that it is part of the process, not a signal to change direction, but a condition to move through. He does not engage with it. He does not argue with it. He continues. This is the difference, not in what is felt, but in how it is interpreted. The man who yields believes the feeling is guidance. The man who persists knows it is resistance. Others will observe this distinction. They will notice that the one who continues does not become unsettled when his thoughts begin to shift, that he does not reduce his effort simply because it feels more difficult, that he maintains his direction even when his mind suggests otherwise. They may say he possesses strong will, yet what he possesses is understanding. He knows that resistance is natural, that it appears when effort is sustained, that it increases when progress is near, and because he knows this, he is not governed by it. It must be understood that resistance is not eliminated. It is encountered. The man does not reach a stage where it disappears entirely. He reaches a stage where he no longer obeys it. This is control, not the absence of resistance, but independence from it. Many confuse this point. They believe that persistence requires feeling strong at all times, that one must be free from doubt in order to continue. Yet this is not so. The man may feel uncertain. He may experience hesitation. He may even question his direction. Yet he continues. And in continuing, he weakens the influence of resistance. Each time he acts despite it, he reduces its authority. Each time he proceeds without engaging it, he strengthens his own control. Over time, this produces a change. Resistance loses its power to alter his behavior. It may still appear, but it no longer governs. This is the stage where persistence becomes stable. The man no longer negotiates with himself. He does not revisit what has already been decided. He does not reduce his effort based on temporary thought. He continues. And in this continuation, his progress becomes uninterrupted. It is also important to distinguish between true adjustment and disguised withdrawal. There are moments when direction must be refined, when action must be improved, when method must be altered. But these changes are made from clarity, not from hesitation. The man who is guided by understanding adjusts without abandoning. The man who is guided by resistance abandons under the appearance of adjustment. This distinction must be learned, for many retreat while believing they are improving. Thus, the law of mental resistance must be clearly understood. It is not an enemy to be feared. It is a condition to be recognized. The man who sees it for what it is gains advantage. He is no longer misled by his own thoughts. He is no longer governed by temporary uncertainty. He continues, while others withdraw, and in continuing, he reaches what others never do. Let the individual then become aware of this force when it appears. Let him recognize that the voice which suggests retreat may not be reason, but resistance. Let him proceed without delay. Let him act in accordance with his decision, not his hesitation, for in doing so he establishes control over himself. And let him affirm, with firm certainty, I recognize resistance for what it is. I do not follow it. I move forward with decision, and through that movement I maintain my course. There is a condition that weakens persistence more than difficulty, more than delay, and more than opposition itself. It is the habit of tying effort to feeling, of allowing one's actions to be governed by the emotional response received from results. This condition appears harmless, yet it is the cause of much inconsistency. It is here that many men begin strongly, yet fail to continue. At the beginning of any pursuit, feeling is favorable. There is enthusiasm. There is expectation. There is a sense of movement. And because these feelings are present, action is easy. The man proceeds without resistance. He works with energy. He believes in what he is doing, yet this condition does not remain. As time passes, results may slow. Progress may become less visible, and the feelings that once supported action begin to fade. This is the critical point, for the man now faces a choice. He may continue based on decision, or he may begin to depend on feeling. Most choose the latter. They do not do so knowingly. They simply notice that they no longer feel the same. The work seems heavier. The direction seems less certain. The effort seems less rewarding. And in response, they reduce their action. They wait for the feeling to return. They believe that when they feel ready again, they will continue. Yet this return rarely occurs, for feeling follows action. It does not lead it. The man who waits for favorable emotion before acting places himself under its control. He becomes inconsistent. He acts when he feels inclined. He pauses when he does not. And in this pattern, his progress becomes uneven, broken, unreliable. This is the effect of emotional dependence. Now, consider the man who understands this law. He does not expect his feelings to remain constant. He does not rely upon enthusiasm to carry him forward. He decides. And once he has decided, he acts. Whether he feels inclined or not, whether the result is visible or not, whether the effort is easy or not. This is emotional detachment, not the absence of feeling, but independence from it. The man does not become without emotion. He simply refuses to allow it to determine his action. Others will observe this difference. They will notice that he does not fluctuate in the same manner, that he does not begin strongly and fade, that he continues even when the work appears difficult. They may believe he possesses unusual discipline, yet what he possesses is separation. He has separated his action from his feeling. This gives him steadiness, for his effort is no longer influenced by temporary condition. He proceeds because he has chosen to proceed, not because he feels encouraged. This steadiness produces advantage, for while others pause when their feeling declines, he continues. While others wait for motivation, he moves. While others are governed by their state, he governs his action. And in this difference, progress accumulates. It must be understood that feeling is unreliable. It changes with circumstance. It rises with visible success. It falls with delay. If a man depends upon it, his effort will rise and fall with it. He will never maintain consistent movement. He will never reach the stage where results compound. Thus, he must remove its authority. He must act regardless of its presence. Henry Ford, in the early stages of his work, encountered repeated obstacles. There were moments when results did not justify effort, when doubt could easily have taken hold. Yet he did not allow his continuation to depend upon how he felt in those moments. He proceeded according to his decision. This is what distinguishes the man who persists. He does not require emotional reward to continue. He continues without it, and in doing so, he eventually reaches the stage where reward appears. To others, this appears as strength, as certainty, as confidence, yet these are not the cause. They are the result. They arise from consistent action maintained beyond emotional fluctuation. It must also be recognized that emotional detachment does not remove satisfaction. It refines it. The man no longer seeks immediate reward. He values continuation. He finds satisfaction in movement, in completion, in consistency. This produces a deeper form of confidence, not one that depends on result, but one that is built through proof. He knows that he will act. He knows that he will continue. He does not question this. And in this certainty, his confidence becomes stable. Others sense this immediately. They recognize that he does not hesitate in the same way, that he does not withdraw when conditions change, that he maintains his direction. This creates trust. For men rely upon those who are consistent, not those who act only when conditions are favorable. Thus, emotional detachment becomes a form of strength. It removes instability. It produces continuity. It allows the man to move forward without interruption. And uninterrupted effort produces result. Let the individual then understand this law. Let him no longer depend upon how he feels in order to act. Let him act according to what he has decided. Let him continue when feeling declines. For it is in this continuation that he separates himself from the many. And let him affirm with firm resolve, I do not depend upon feeling to act. I move according to decision, and through that decision, I maintain my course. There is a habit, common among men of good intention, that prevents effort from ever reaching its full effect. It is not the absence of work, nor the lack of desire, but the tendency to shift direction before direction has had time to produce result. The man begins with purpose, yet does not remain with it. He moves, but not long enough in one course to arrive. This is the violation of sustained direction, for persistence is not merely the act of continuing, it is the act of continuing in the same direction long enough for effort to accumulate. Without this, even great effort is scattered. It produces motion, but not advancement. Most men do not recognize when this occurs. They do not believe they have abandoned their aim. They believe they have refined it, improved it, adjusted it. And in some cases, this may be true, but often it is not refinement. It is redirection, born of impatience. The man does not see result as quickly as he expected. He encounters resistance. He feels uncertainty. And instead of continuing, he alters his course. He tries something new, then something else. Each change appears reasonable. Yet with each change, he begins again. He forfeits what has already been built. He replaces accumulation with repetition of beginnings. This is why many remain in constant motion, yet achieve little. They are always starting, rarely continuing, never arriving. Now consider the man who understands this law. He chooses his direction carefully. He does not rush into it without thought. But once chosen, he holds it. He does not alter it at the first sign of difficulty. He does not abandon it when results are delayed. He remains. This remaining is what produces power. For effort, when applied consistently in one direction, begins to compound. Each action builds upon the last. Each step carries forward what has already been gained. The man does not begin again each day. He continues, and in continuing, he advances. Andrew Carnegie exemplified this principle. He did not divide his attention across many pursuits. He fixed his mind upon definite purpose and remained aligned with it over time. His strength did not lie in scattered effort, but in sustained direction. Others, observing this, saw clarity, certainty, authority. Yet what they were witnessing was not force alone, it was continuity. The man had not weakened his effort through constant change. He had strengthened it through consistency. Others will observe this difference in those who apply this law. They will notice that such a man does not shift with every new idea, that he does not abandon his course when another appears, more appealing, that he continues in the same direction even when alternatives present themselves. They may believe he is resistant to change, yet what he resists is not improvement, it is distraction, for he understands that direction must be maintained long enough to produce result. This understanding gives him advantage. While others divide their effort, he concentrates it. While others restart, he continues. While others weaken their progress through change, he strengthens his through consistency. It must also be understood that sustained direction does not mean rigidity. The man may refine his methods, he may improve his approach, he may adjust his actions, but he does not abandon his aim. He does not change direction entirely. He builds upon what has already been established. This distinction is essential, for many confuse improvement with redirection. They believe that altering their course frequently is a sign of intelligence, yet in doing so they prevent accumulation. They trade depth for variety, and in that trade, they lose progress. The man who sustains direction understands that time is required. That effort must be applied repeatedly in the same course. That results do not appear from scattered action, but from focused continuation. This allows him to remain steady, even when others question him, even when results are delayed, even when alternative paths appear more appealing. He does not move, for he has chosen. And in that choice, he remains. Over time, this produces something that others cannot easily replicate. Momentum. Not sudden, not dramatic, but steady, increasing. Each action carries more weight than the last. Each effort produces greater effect. And this is only possible because direction has been maintained. Others will see this momentum and believe it appeared suddenly. They will say that his success came quickly, that things began to work for him all at once. Yet what they do not see is the time during which nothing appeared to happen, the period where he continued without visible reward, the stage where he remained while others moved on. This is where sustained direction reveals its power. It allows the man to pass beyond the beginning, beyond the uncertainty, into the stage where effort produces visible result. Thus, the law must be applied with intention. The man must choose his direction, and once chosen, he must hold it. He must not allow impatience to move him. He must not allow doubt to redirect him. He must continue, for in continuation, accumulation occurs, and in accumulation, result is formed. Let the individual then examine his course. Let him determine whether he has remained long enough in one direction to produce effect. Let him resist the urge to begin again unnecessarily. Let him hold his aim and move within it. For it is not the number of beginnings that produces success, it is the number of continuations. And let him affirm, with firm conviction, I remain steady in my direction. I do not weaken my effort through change. I strengthen it through consistency, and through that consistency, I create result. There comes a stage in persistence where effort alone is no longer the determining force. The man has moved beyond beginning. He has continued beyond doubt. He has remained through resistance. And now something deeper begins to form, not merely what he does, but who he becomes. This is the law of identity. For a man does not persist indefinitely through effort alone. He persists because he becomes one who persists. At first, continuation requires decision. He must remind himself. He must push forward. He must act despite hesitation. But as this action is repeated, it begins to form a pattern, and that pattern, sustained over time, becomes character. The man is no longer someone who is trying to continue. He is someone who continues. This is the distinction. It is no longer an act, it is an identity. Most men never reach this stage because they do not continue long enough for it to form. They act in moments. They stop in moments. They restart again. And in this inconsistency, no identity is established. They do not see themselves as persistent. They see themselves as attempting to be. Thus, when difficulty appears, they return to what they believe themselves to be: uncertain, inconsistent, divided. The man who has continued long enough no longer returns in this way. He has built proof. He has seen himself act when it was difficult. He has experienced his own continuation, and through that experience, he has formed belief. Not belief in what might happen, but belief in what he will do. This belief changes everything. He no longer asks whether he will continue. He assumes that he will. He no longer debates whether to proceed. He proceeds. Others will observe this change with great clarity. They will notice that he no longer hesitates as before, that he does not speak in uncertainty, that his actions follow through without the same resistance. They will describe him as reliable, as steady, as someone who does not stop. Yet what they are witnessing is not effort in the moment. It is identity expressed through action. This identity produces trust. For men rely upon those whose behavior is consistent. They do not depend upon those who begin strongly and withdraw. They depend upon those who continue. Thus, the man who has formed this identity becomes valued, not because of intention, but because of proof. Now, alongside this law of identity stands another closely joined yet distinct. It is the law of continuation. For identity, once formed, must be maintained. It is not fixed without action. It is reinforced through repetition. The man must continue to act in accordance with what he has become, not occasionally, but consistently. Each act of continuation strengthens the identity. Each return to action confirms it. Each refusal to stop reinforces it. Over time, something changes. Stopping becomes unnatural. The man no longer considers withdrawal in the same way. It does not appear as an option of equal weight. It feels foreign, out of place. This is the effect of continuation. The man has moved beyond the stage where persistence is difficult. He has entered the stage where persistence is expected. He does not struggle to act. He continues. It must be understood that this stage is not reached quickly. It is built through repeated action, through continued movement, through decision upheld over time. Many abandon the process before this point. They do not allow identity to form. They remain in effort, and effort alone is not sufficient to sustain persistence indefinitely. The man who reaches this stage gains advantage, for he no longer relies on will alone. He relies on what he has become. Others will notice this as strength. They will observe that he does not appear to struggle in the same way, that he continues with less visible effort, that he maintains his direction with ease. They may believe that persistence has become easier for him, and in one sense, it has. Not because the work has changed, but because the man has changed. This change influences everything. His confidence increases, not through encouragement, but through proof. He has seen himself continue. He trusts that he will continue again. This trust removes hesitation. It allows him to act without internal conflict. And in this freedom from conflict, his energy is directed entirely toward advancement. This produces efficiency. He wastes less time in doubt, less energy in hesitation, less effort in starting and stopping. He moves and continues and progresses. It is also at this stage that others begin to follow, not because he asks them to, but because they see something in him that they lack: consistency, certainty, direction. They trust what they observe. They align with it, and in doing so, his influence increases. This is how leadership is formed, not through declaration, but through continuation. Thus, The two laws must be understood together. Identity is formed through repetition. Continuation sustains that identity. The man becomes what he does repeatedly, and he remains what he continues to do. Therefore, he must guard this carefully. He must not allow himself to return to inconsistency. He must not break the pattern he has formed. He must continue, for in continuation lies his strength, and in that strength lies his progress. Let the individual then move beyond effort alone. Let him continue until continuation becomes natural. Let him act until action becomes identity. For in doing so, he secures what others cannot maintain. And let him affirm with firm certainty, I am one who continues. I act in accordance with what I have become, and through continued action, I strengthen my identity and secure my progress. There exists a point in every pursuit that few men ever cross, not because it is impossible, but because it is misunderstood. It is the point where effort has been sustained, where direction has been held, where resistance has been endured, and yet, just before the result becomes visible, the pressure increases. The work feels heavier, the uncertainty sharpens, the mind grows restless. This is the final threshold. Most men reach this point, few remain. For this stage does not appear as completion. It appears as continuation without reward. The man feels that he has done enough, that he has persisted long enough, that perhaps the result would have appeared by now if it were going to appear at all. And in that moment, a quiet thought arises. That may be sufficient. It is here that the majority withdraw, not in defeat, but in conclusion. They believe they have reached the end of what can be expected, yet they have not reached the end. They have reached the threshold. This threshold is not marked by visible sign. It is not announced. It is felt through increased resistance, through heightened uncertainty, through the absence of confirmation. And because it feels like an ending, it convinces the man to stop. This is its nature, to appear final when it is not, to persuade withdrawal when continuation is required. Consider the individual who has worked steadily, who has applied effort with consistency, who has endured the earlier stages where nothing appeared to happen. He has reached a point where his work has accumulated, where his direction has been maintained, where his persistence has built foundation. Now the final stage begins, yet instead of relief, he feels pressure. Instead of clarity, he feels doubt. Instead of reward, he experiences delay. This is where misunderstanding occurs. For the man believes that he has come far enough to expect result, and when that result does not appear, he assumes something is wrong. He begins to reconsider, to question, to withdraw slightly, and in doing so, he steps away from what was about to form. Now consider another man in the same position. He feels the same pressure, the same uncertainty, the same absence of visible reward, yet he understands. He recognizes that. This stage is not an indication of failure, but of proximity. That resistance increases not when one is far from result, but often when one is near it. He does not withdraw. He continues. This continuation is what carries him across the threshold. And once crossed, the change appears. Not always dramatically, not always at once, but enough to alter direction, enough to confirm that progress has been real. Others, observing this, believe the result came suddenly. They see the outcome, but not the moment before it. They do not see the stage where the man nearly stopped, where uncertainty was greatest, where continuation was least supported by appearance. Thus, they misunderstand success. They believe it arrived quickly, when in truth, it was reached by remaining when others would have left. This law is rarely taught, for it cannot be fully understood without experience. The man must feel this moment. He must encounter it. He must stand within it and choose to stop or to continue. It is in this choice that the outcome is decided. It must also be understood that this threshold appears in many forms. in work, in pursuit, in growth. It is not limited to one area. It is a recurring condition, and each time it appears, the same principle applies. The man must continue beyond what feels sufficient. He must move past what appears to be the end. He must remain when departure feels justified. This is